From Egypt to Egypt, Volume 1. For many years, you have sought the truth about your heritage, but satisfying answers have been nowhere in sight. You have been taught that the Bible was a white man's book and used as a tool to enslave us. When asked, "What is your nationality?" you say Black, African American, Black African American, African, American, Jamaican, Haitian, Trinidadian, Puerto Rican, Barbadian, Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Colombian, Afro or Black Virgin Islanders, Afro-Asiatic, or Negro. But what if there is a deeper story? What if I told you that everyone whose ancestors were enslaved and transported by ships shares a common heritage, one that has been hidden, discontinued, and actually foretold in biblical prophecy? This book uncovers the true identity of the descendants of those scattered during the transatlantic slave trade, those sold into bondage, burdened with iron yokes on their necks and lost to history. My book reveals the conspiracy that has concealed your true past and offers a path to reclaim your true heritage. Whether you're just beginning your journey or seeking reassurance and answers, this book is your starter kit and a study tool for uncovering the truth. Discover why our people have been oppressed, hated, and hidden, and find the confirmation you've been searching for. You were seeking, now you found. Mytrueheritage.com. From Egypt to Egypt by Judah Yisrael. For my Hebrew readers, Mizraim ad Mitzrayim, Me'et Yehuda Yisrael. What do we have here, ladies and gentlemen? This is my 5th book that I have published, and this one right here is a must read. What I'm going to do for you all today, I'm going to give you all just some small snippets of some of the things that you will find in this book. Now, this book here is a top quality book, premium page, gloss print book, which I'll show you at the end. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to once again show you some small snippets. I'm not going to show you the deepest things in here, but just some small little nuggets so you can know what to expect in this book. So what I'll do is I'll go to, I'll just pick some random. I guess I'll go to page 9. So right here we see, ladies and gents, we have the topic of the question in hand. What is my nationality? All right. We'll start here, ladies and gents. It says, I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'm going to try to cram 3,000 to 4,000 years of history into a short summary. There is so much I could say, but I want to keep this basic and elementary for the remainder of this book. This book is for beginners, those who are seeking the truth and are looking for a foundation on where to start. Maybe someone you know has come into the knowledge of their true heritage and isn't quite able to explain it fully to you yet. This is the perfect book for you. So you can begin to understand where they are coming from. Maybe you don't understand why that person is practicing an unfamiliar culture. Maybe you don't agree with it, but perhaps this book can be the beginning of your own awakening. I promise you'll have much to think about by the time you finish reading. This book only scratches the surface. If I start a series, we'll go much deeper. But for now, let's do the crash course. I will often repeat myself for clarity for new people. New people don't always get it the first time. Let's get right to it. Many people may ask, many people may have asked you, who are you? No, seriously, who are you when it comes to your true heritage? Before the slave ships, have you ever wondered why we, the descendants of those who went into slavery by ships, don't have the slightest clue about our true identity before the transatlantic slave trade? Have you ever questioned why you can't open the Bible and clearly point to the nation your ancestors come from? You know, the same Bible that you were told was a white man's book? When you see images of people from the Bible in books, movies, television shows, or statues, they're always what color? If I asked you to picture Jesus Christ with his mother Mary, most of you would picture them as what color? Let's be honest. Most of you are still haunted by the false images that were placed into your minds. Because of that, you've never considered the Bible as your Black history book, the book of your physical ancestors. So I ask you this question, and it's not a trick question. It's a question every adult and even every teenager should be able to answer. What is your nationality? This is a simple question, but when I ask it, many of you might answer Black. Let me be clear. Black is not a nationality. Black is a color from a crayon box. Black is the absence of light. Black has many meanings, but I can assure you your nationality is not black. Many of you say, I'm black. But when I ask, well, what color is your skin? What color is your face, arms, and body? Most of you will answer brown. Then I ask, what color is your hair? You might say black. And right there is the moment when it should click. Your hair might be black, maybe your eyes too, but your skin color has nothing to do with your national origins. When someone asks you this simple question, what is your nationality? You should remember the root word of nationality is nation. The word nation comes from the Latin nazi or nacion, which deals with birth or being born. But it's not just talking about the place you were born. It also refers to where your ancestors were born, your common lineage and ancestry, the language your forefathers spoke, the land your people came from, your relatives, your physical country, and most importantly, your homeland. And yes, this includes your race. Your nationality isn't just about the country on your passport. It's about your birthright, your people, and your history. For example, if you say, hey, I'm black, I need you to understand, you're not describing a nationality. You're describing a color from the crayon box. There is no homeland called black, language called black or blackanese. There's no flag called black. or ancestry called black. There is no ancestry called black, ladies and gentlemen. Is not a nationality. Now you might say, well, I'm African American. But even then, there is no African American land, no African American flag, and no African American language. If I asked you, what part of Africa are you from? You're silent. What tribe or nation did your ancestors come from? You're silent. Who in Africa today is claiming you as their people? You're still silent. There are about 54 sovereign countries in Africa according to the United Nations, yet you can't claim even one as your homeland. Nor can you point to me exactly which part you're from. Let me give you a modern example. If you say, my cousin lives in Georgia, and I ask, okay, which part of Georgia? You might say Atlanta. Then I ask, which part of Atlanta? You might not know off the top of your head, but you could call your cousin and he'd be able to tell you down to the zip code exactly where he's from and where he grew up. He can tell you about the culture of that city, its neighborhoods, its people, and the experience of growing up there. Now let me ask you this. Are we able to do anything close to that when it comes to our ancestry? Are we able to call someone and ask, which part of Africa did we come from? What language did we speak? What were our traditions, values, or city names? The answer is no, no, no. And why not? Because you and I, the children of the transatlantic slave trade, were cut off, aka discontinued from our heritage. Even as I write this book to you now, I am writing in English. And you speak English, but English comes from England. And you are not from England. So again, I ask, what is your African American language? Last time I checked, no one speaks the language called African Americanese or Americanese. Think about that for a moment. Russians are from Russia, they speak Russian. Germans are from Germany and they speak German. Spanish people are from Spain and they speak Spanish. French people are from France and they speak French. Koreans are from Korea and they speak Korean. Now, here's the key. Other nations have their own flag, their own land, their own language, their own last names, their own history, their own food, clothing, currency, laws, their own generals, governors, doctors, judges, their own army, navy, and culture, their own way of functioning as a society of people, their own seat in the United Nations, their own historical records, and most importantly, they have their own leaders. In a very real sense, other nations have their own world, a complete society, a structured identity, and it says a defined purpose because they are their own divine class of people. Many people don't realize that the word world can refer to a distinctive class of people, a divine class of people, not always the physical universe. Let that sink in. Now here's something even deeper. Even dogs have a nationality. German Shepherd, German dog language from Germany. Siberian Husky, Siberian dog, Siberian traits from Siberia. French Bulldog, French dog, French traits from France. Chinese Chow, Chinese dog, Chinese traits from China. The so-called Negroes, and yes, I said so-called because that's what we were called. have their identity placed beneath even a dog. Think about it. Some dogs have a better sense of identity, origin, and nationality than the offspring of the transatlantic slave trade. How sad is that? When you ask our people what their nationality is, most will say, I don't know. Some will even run from the question. Some get offended or defensive, not because the question is wrong, but because they've never been given the truth. Instead, they offer Black, African American, American, Afro-American, Negro, here's a good one, mixed. That's right, mixed. And a list of other bywords, none of which point to a true homeland, flag, or culture. The so-called Negro carries the last name of their oppressor. And sadly, many are proud to be called Smith, Johnson, Williams, Jackson, Jones. Many people are proud of that. Now I'm going to stop there. I'm going to give you another little snippet, give you a few more, because there are some deep points that I make in this, ladies and gentlemen. Keep that in mind. I guess I'll go to, we'll go to page 58. I'm going to go to 57. All right, as you see right here, if many of you all who know our true heritage, you all know about this already. Those who has the Hebrew starter kit when we first came into this culture, we had the 1611 edition Bible, Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, which you see right here from Babylon, Timbuktu, and Apocrypha. You already know. This is more of an updated starter kit for brothers and sisters. In here, you don't have to worry about doctrine, just who the children of Israel is. But anyway, it says, I turn to page 213. Now, I'm giving you the story from the middle of it, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know. I turned to page 213, and there was a definition of Ham. What I'm about to show you shocked the pastor, and it will shock many others. Are you ready for what it says? Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He, meaning Ham, became the progenitor of the dark races. Dark races, not the Negroes. Not the Negroes. You see that? The Negroes don't come from the bloodline of Ham, Noah's son. It says not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. So then I go on to say, now I couldn't help but notice something striking, something bold, something that completely shattered the false teaching I was given by that Christian preacher. Because preachers teach that we come from the bloodline of Ham, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, a Christian Bible dictionary. Y'all hear that? This is a Christian Bible dictionary. Stated something completely contradicted what I have been taught growing up in the Christian church. Wow. It said that the Negroes did not come from the line of Ham. Read that again. The Negroes did not come from the line, meaning the bloodline of Ham. Let that sink in. Here it is, the very definition found in the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary under Ham, which we already see right here again, ladies and gentlemen. So you already know, I don't have to read that again because we just read it right here. So if the Negroes did not come from Ham, the father of the African nations, where did they come from? Now remember, guys, a Christian Bible dictionary stated that the so-called Negroes did not come from the bloodline of Ham. So that is the question they don't want you to ask. That's the question they don't want you to seek out and find the correct answers to. That's the question they can't answer without losing control of the false narrative. That's the question that begins to unlock the mystery of who you truly are. It starts there. The next question is, how did this Christian company of Zondervan know this? Who told them? Why does this Christian company Zondervan disagree with their very own preachers? Why do they disagree with their very own preachers? Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, you go to a bishop, a deacon, a pastor, or someone who's went to a seminary school, and you ask them, which one of the three sons of Noah do we descend from? They will always tell you the bloodline of Ham. And in here, I go over the things that they say, the scriptures that they use, and I refute it with Bible. With Bible and history and archaeology. But let's continue. If the Negroes don't come from Ham, that only leaves two sons of Noah, which is Japheth, who's the offspring settled in Europe, and then you have Shem, whose descendants settled right next door to Africa. Let's go back over this definition of Ham again. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons who lived through the flood. Because remember, there were 8 people that got off that ark, ladies and gentlemen. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. Not the Negroes, but the Egyptians. So we know that they black. Ethiopians, we know that they black. Libyans and Canaanites, we know that they black. Then I say, let's turn the heat up in the kitchen and expose the lies that have been marinating for centuries. You just asked one of the most powerful and piercing questions. So who are the Negroes? And why would a Christian Bible dictionary like Zondervan go out of its way to say the Negroes are not from Ham, when the Christian church keeps preaching that we are? That contradiction is loud. Now let's break this thing down step by step with power and clarity. Why does the church say we come from Ham? Why does the church say we come from Ham? Because they only repeat what the slave master taught them. The doctrine was never questioned, never researched, never studied. It was handed down like a general curse. And the preachers today just kept passing the lie. But now you're seeking what the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary said with boldness. Once again, Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the eight persons who lived through the flood, he became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. That's all of you who are the part of the transatlantic slave trade, in case you didn't know. You Jamaicans, Haitians, people from Trinidad and Tobago, St. Thomas, Bermuda, Brazil, America, etc. You are the people that this is speaking about. You don't come from the bloodline of Ham. It says, but the Egyptians do, the Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. Let's say it again, not the Negroes. So this book is telling us plain and clear the Negroes, the ones sold into slavery, are not descendants from Ham. That means we were lied to. Now about those slave flyers. Yes, King, talking to you brothers. There were flyers, posters, and ads across towns in America, the Caribbean, and Europe describing Negroes being sold as property. Some of these read things like Negroes for sale. Shipments of healthy Negroes just arrived. 300 prime Negroes from Africa auctioned today. I ain't gonna go no further than that, ladies and gentlemen. You gotta get the book to see why am I going into this and why did I mention that. All right, I'll give you a few more. Let's go to page 10. I go to 102. This is chapter 6 of my book. And this chapter is called What Color Were the Children of Ham and Israel? Think about that. What color were the children of Ham and Israel? Remember, we just learned that the Negroes don't come from Ham. It says, does the Bible reveal the true color of the Hebrew Israelites, also called Jews or the children of Israel? Before we dive into this topic, we must first understand that the world's perception of the so-called Negroes. The world has always classified these people as Africans. And when I say Africans, I'm referring to the descendants of Ham, one of the sons of Noah. According to widely accepted religious teachings, Ham was the black brother out of all the three of Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now here's the problem. The world made a critical mistake by admitting this truth. Why? Because throughout the Bible, the children of Israel are also known as the Hebrew Israelites, were often mistaken for Africans. Y'all see that? They were often mistaken as Africans, meaning mistaken identity. But specifically Egyptians, who are the children of Ham. This leads to an important conclusion. If you can identify the color of Ham what the color of Ham looked like, then you can also get a clear picture of what the children of Shem look like, particularly the Israelites. This topic has become one of the most avoided, debated, and buried truths in modern religion and historical discussion. Even though the Bible and historical documentation gives us ample proof about the true color of the Israelites, this information has been tragically concealed from the public. Let's put it into perspective. If I showed you a large crowd of Jamaicans, Haitians, African Americans, Trinidadians, Afro-Dominicans, Afro-Brazilians, Afro-Mexicans, Afro-Puerto Ricans, Afro-Cubans, Afro-Colombians, Afro-Latinos, Black Frenchmen, Black Irishmen, Black Germans, Black people from Europe, anyone whose ancestors went into slavery with ships, walking down the street in silence, wearing the same clothing with no flags or labels. Could you 100% identify who's who? Could you identify the Haitian from the African American? Could you tell who's the Afro-Mexican from the Brazilian? Could you tell the difference between the Afro-Colombian from the Afro-Dominican? The honest answer is you cannot. Why? Because they all look alike, and you wouldn't think twice that they are all different groups of so-called black people. These groups share common ancestry, skin tone, and features, and all are the offspring of the slaves from the transatlantic slave trade. The only difference between these people is a different boat stop. Some ships went to Cuba, Jamaica, Brazil, America, Europe, etc. Unless they told you who they were, or unless you had specific cultural clues, you wouldn't be able to separate them. Because remember, guys, they all look alike. Their skin color is the same. The same would apply if you saw a silent group of Russians, Germans, Ukrainians, Italians, Hungarians, French people, Danish, Swedes, Polish, Bulgarians, all having white skin and are walking together. You wouldn't easily be able to separate them by sight because they also look alike, as they have the same skin tone. However, if you place a man from Jamaica or an African American next to a white man from France or Russia, most people could clearly tell these men are from different racial backgrounds, simply based on skin color and features. This is exactly why this biblical topic of the seed of Shem and Ham matters. This is exactly why the biblical topic of the seed, meaning the offspring or the descendants of Shem and Ham, matters. The children of Ham, or Hamites or Africans, and the children of Shem, Semites or Israelites, were often mistaken for one another because of the skin tone being the same and looking familiar in appearance. just like the example that I have just given you. That alone should tell you everything, and this will be proven with facts later as we dive deeper into this mystery. Question: if the biblical Israelites who descended from the bloodline of Shem look like white Europeans and portrayed in movies, television, and modern day Israel today, how could they ever be mistaken for black Africans who descended from Ham? How? The answer? They couldn't. There is no historical, biological, and visual way that white Europeans could be consistently mistaken for black Africans, especially not in a time where identity was often judged by appearance, skin tone, and lineage. Throughout the Bible, we see example after example where the Hebrew Israelites were confused with Egyptians, and the Egyptians were known descendants of Ham, the so-called black son of Noah. Ask your pastor, he'll tell you, yeah, Noah was black. Ham was black. He was the African one. That's where we come from. He'll tell you that. If Israelites truly look like modern white Europeans, how could this confusion have ever happened? Let's break it down. The Egyptians descended from Ham through Mytrueheritage, Genesis chapter 10, verse 6, and were known to be a black African people, a fact confirmed by archaeology, historical art, and Bible dictionaries. The Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary says Ham was the younger son of Noah, the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians. Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. Even Zondervan, a Christian publication, admits the Egyptians were dark-skinned people. Now let's prove it, because I'm going to ask you this question again later. Let's first look at the appearance of the children of Ham, starting with one of the most famous descendants of Ham in world history, King Tutankhamun, also known as King Tut, the boy king of Egypt, aka Mizraim. Let's see what he looked like. Remember, he comes from the bloodline of Ham's son, Mizraim. Boom, look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if any of y'all don't know, this was discovered November of 1922. Look how dark this Hamite is, or Egyptian. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Look at that. A Hamite, an Egyptian. See that? Statue of Tutankhamun wearing a ceremonial meaning scarf. See that, ladies and gentlemen? Look at that. That's important to know. That's very important to know. Look how dark he is. So, that being said, would you put a statue of a white man over your father or son's gravesite if they were black? Of course not. King Tut is from the bloodline of Ham in the Bible, which means that he is a Hamite according to the Bible. Once again, the Egyptians descended from Mizraim in the Bible. So religions already agree. They already agree that Noah's son Ham was black. This means that the Ethiopians from Cush, aka Cush with the K, are black. This also means that the Egyptians who come from Mizraim, the brother of Cush, or Cush with the K, are also black. And that's common sense. Remember, we found out this earlier, Psalm 78:51. This section of the book is powerful, rich with scripture, logic, and historical accuracy. I'm not just dropping knowledge, I'm walking you through the courtroom of truth, piece by piece, using the Bible, ancient history, and critical thinking to destroy the deception that the children of the slave trade are Hamites. Y'all walking through the courtroom of truth. And speaking of that, sidebar, I will be doing a documentary. I'm sorry, not a documentary. I wrote a book already. I'm not going to publish it yet. It's going to be called King James on Trial. It's going to disprove the lies about King James. That's all I'll say now. And also about to release a children's book as well. And it's going to have black images in it, ladies and gentlemen, for your children. Got to teach these babies too. Got to teach them too. Let's get some more. I'll go to, let me pick another random one. We're going down. We'll go to page 360. I guess 365 is right here. Right here, chapter 8. Nothing new under the sun, ladies and gents. Chapter. All right, nothing new under the sun. So it says, Ecclesiastes 1:9, the good word, meaning the good word version of the Bible. All right. Whatever has happened before will happen again. Whatever has been done before will be done again. And there is nothing new under the sun. That's the good word version of Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 9. There is nothing new under the sun. One thing we should all agree on is this. History has a habit of repeating itself. Time and time again, we witness the same patterns, the same oppression, the same resistance, the same rise and fall of nations, the same spiritual battles between truth and deception. Why? Why? Ecclesiastes 1:9. The thing that have been, it is that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. This is not just poetic, it's prophetic. It means that the things that happened before will happen again. It's all a cycle, a repetition, a mirror of the past. Prophetic cycles and the people of the book, when we examine the history of the Israelites, in the Bible we see, they are oppressed, they are scattered, they are enslaved, they were discontinued from their heritage. They were restored when they turned back to the Most High, meaning the God of the Bible. In the Most High, what are we talking about? Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 8 mentions the word the Most High. Come on now, ladies and gentlemen. I believe in only the Bible and the Bible only. But anyway, sounds familiar? Look at the people suffering the same fate today. There was a direct parallel between what happened to the Israelites in the scriptures and what is happening to the so-called black people today, the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. Same curses, same oppression, same spiritual blindness, same rejection from the world, same prophetic identity. Locks of hair, a physical sign. Now let's talk about appearance among the ancient Israelites. There was a particular vow that men would take to separate themselves into the Most High. This vow had visual evidence, something that would make them look different from the nations around them. This is Numbers chapter 6, verse 5, King James Version. All the days of the vow of his separation, there shall no razor come up on his head until the days be fulfilled, in which he separate himself unto the Lord. He shall be holy, which means set apart, and shall let the what? The locks of the hair of his head grow, and shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow. This was called the Nazarite vow. And the word used here, locks, is not poetic. It's literal. It refers to what we call today dreadlocks, coiled hair, ropes, twists, the natural hair texture of black people. And we see it again with Samson. Judges chapter 16, verse 13 and verse 19. If you weave this, meaning cut the 7 locks of my head. Verse 19. And she called, talking about Delilah, she called for a man and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head. Who else wears locks today? Look around. Who still carries this natural uncut rope-like hair without shame? Who naturally grows locks in their heads? Not through fashion, but through birthright. So-called black people. Not only do we carry the same curses, we carry the same signs. We look like the people in the book, and that's no coincidence. History is a mirror. When you study the scriptures carefully and compare them with what's happening in our communities, you just don't see a story. You see your own reflection. They had locks. We have locks. They were enslaved. We were enslaved. They were scattered. We were scattered. They were hated. We are hated. They were God's chosen people. We are waking up. We are waking up. We're waking up. And that's why history repeats itself, because it was never just history. It was prophecy. And now that prophecy is being fulfilled in us. In us. Look at the hair of the biblical Israelites, ladies and gentlemen. Compare it to today, in today's time with an Israelite. Look at this, ladies and gents. Look at that. What the biblical Israelites look like. Oh, and look at the fringes with the ribbon of blue, which I talk about in this book as well. But page 369, ancient Hebrews with locks, the tribe of Levi. That's who you're looking at, ladies and gentlemen. Look at these images closely. There aren't European looking figures. There aren't pale skinned men with straight hair and blue eyes. These are black men, men with woolly hair, dreaded or locked, and full beards. These are men holding musical instruments exactly as the Bible describes. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen. This is a stone. What you're looking at is a stone relief of ancient musicians. Look at the shape and texture of the hair. These are locked strands. Look at their features. Look at their full beards. This is not a coincidence. This is identity. Close-up of ancient Israelite locks. Look at the detailed carvings of the hair. These aren't curls or waves. These are ropes of hair, thick locks, the same as you see on brothers today. Side-by-side comparison on the left, ancient stone relief of a Hebrew man with locks and a beard. On the right, a modern so-called black man with the same hair, the same beard, the same features. History repeating itself right before your eyes. Scripture confirms it. These are the sons of Levi. This is 1 Chronicles chapter 15, verse 16 through 19, ladies and gentlemen. All you got to do is read that. All right, you read that on your own time. I'll give you about two more. Let's go to page. Go to. Guess we'll go to 44. I guess I'll go here. Well, it's looking a lot like Shem's offspring because we are going through the same things that those black people went through, the same atrocities as the ancient Israelites, and we fit the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. They have the same skin color as the Jews or the Hebrews of the Bible, and they don't come from Noah's son Ham, as we've been lied to and taught today. The Semitic people, the Asiatic peoples, which I'm going to talk a lot about in my next book of this volume, are black people, but they don't come from the bloodline of Ham, even though their skin is black. Now let's go back to some of the curses that are placed upon the children of Israel for their disobedience. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 32, and Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 41. NIV version, it says, your sons and your daughters will be given to another nation, meaning another race of people, and you will wear out your eyes watching for them day after day, powerless to lift a hand or fight back. Verse 41, you will have sons and daughters, but you will not keep them or enjoy them, because they will go into captivity. They will go into captivity. What is captivity? Slaves. Slavery. This means we have to find a race of people with black skin, as you will call it today. People who look like ancient black Egyptians, Libyans and Canaanites and Ethiopians. People who shared the same skin tone, and people who went into slavery, whose children were snatched from them and given to another people, aka another race, another nationality, another nation. The slaves would cry watching and waiting for their children to return, and there was nothing that they could do. That's what these passages are talking about right here, ladies and gentlemen. We got to look and find for that people today. There ain't nothing new under the sun. We're to find a nation of people who had sons and daughters, but remember, a race of people that couldn't even enjoy their children because their children were taken into captivity. What does captivity mean? Right here, boom, captivity, captives. See that? Captives, slaves. Look at this, captured, exiled. By extension, booty. That's what spoils of war, of course. Prisoners, take away. That was taken. Now, in this photo, the scriptures you see are Joel, the next photo y'all see down here, Joel chapter 3, verse 3, Joel chapter 3, verse 6, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 32, Deuteronomy 28, verse 41. All right? That's what the scriptures you see there. Each of these scriptures speaks directly to what happened to our people, our sons and daughters, taken, traded, and sold, just as the Bible said what happened to the children of Israel. Just as it said what happened to the children of Israel, ladies and gentlemen. See that? What race of people as a nation were taken as prisoners? Think about it. If it's nothing new under the sun, what nation of people that fit that, ladies and gentlemen? Because when we learn in the Bible, these people didn't come from the bloodline of Ham, the children of Israel. They came from the bloodline of Shem. Because remember, their skin must be black, and the race of people who took them must be another race. Who do you choose? Or will you avoid that question? Oh yeah, most of you all do that. Remember that according to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 25, they would be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. Who does this sound like? What race of people is being oppressed? Locked in prisons, living in poverty, their vineyards taken, curses everywhere they go, and their wives violated by other men. That's when you read, well, you got to read before this because we didn't go over this. That's earlier in this chapter. Remember, this must be a nation of people that's been scattered all over the world. Who fits this? They must have black skin, and among the nations where they're scattered, they must be able to grow locks in their heads because the Bible shows it, and I've shown you in history. Then here, all I did was, for you youngsters, you can type in black slave auction. All right. It says slave auctions were a fundamental component of the institution of slavery in the United States and the broader transatlantic slave trade. Those auctions were public or private events where enslaved people who were bought and sold as property, serving the economic needs of the southern states' plantation economy. Slave auction. Look on the podium, it says, right here, ladies and gentlemen, Negroes for sale. Uh-oh, they're going to wear Negroes. At auction this day at 1 o'clock. Notice it says Negroes, the same Negroes who don't come from the bloodline of Ham. That's what you see right there. Negroes, all right? Page 47. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 32. And Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 41 again. Your sons and daughters will be given. Uh-oh, that means they're going to be taken and given over to another nation, meaning another race of people. You will wear your eyes watching for them day after day, powerless to lift a hand. You will have sons and daughters, but you will not keep them because they will go into captivity. That's Bible, ladies and gentlemen. That's Bible. That's Bible. Quick question, young people. Have you ever heard of the weeping time? It's known as a forgotten part of our history. It was the largest slave auction ever recorded on this side of the world. It's known as the weeping time. Let me educate you on this because this is biblical prophecy. It says here, zoom in, 2 miles west of downtown Savannah, Georgia, is a historical marker in the center of a small plot of a fenced city park. The triangular park measures not more than 1/5 of an acre. The surrounding neighborhood is one of the most distressed and depressed sections of the city. The marker reads, look at this, largest slave sale in Georgia history. One of the largest sales of enslaved persons in U.S. history took place on March 2nd through 3rd, 1859 at the 10 Broick Race Course, 1/4 of a mile southwest of here. To satisfy his creditors, Pierce M. Butler sold 436 men, women, and children from his Butler Island and Hampton Plantation near Darien, Georgia. The African-American, or should we say so-called African-American, heritage remembered as the Weeping Time. The Weeping Time. The event was reported extensively in the northern press, and reaction to the sale deepened the nation's growing sectional divide in the years immediately preceding the Civil War. All right, this was erected by Georgia Historical Society and the city of Savannah. The marker was dedicated on March 3rd, 2008, 149 years after the slave auction occurred. And the commemoration ceremony, then Mayor Otis Johnson, only the second so-called African-American to hold that office, offered up a short speech honoring the enslaved men and women whose labor helped build the oldest city in the state of Georgia. At the ceremony, a local man handed out dirt from Nigeria to be sprinkled around the marker, and Mayor Johnson poured water over the dirt to consecrate the ground, especially when y'all start learning about the Igbo tribe in southeast Nigeria, or the Yoruba Jews in Nigeria. Don't get me started. Get a few more, ladies and gentlemen. Matter of fact, y'all can read that on your own time. All right, that can be your homework. You read that. All right, now I'll get a few more. I'll get one more example. All right, and this is not even the deep stuff in the Bible. All right, we're gonna go to page 499. All right, Deuteronomy 28 verse 45 and verse 46. It says, "All these curses will come to you. They will pursue you, meaning they're gonna chase you or follow after you. And they will pursue you and stay close to you until you are destroyed, because you didn't obey the Lord your God to follow his commandments and laws, which I'm giving you. These curses, meaning these punishments, will be a sign, an amazing thing to warn you and your descendants forever." So you'll be able to see the curses that were outlined in the Bible in Deuteronomy 28 chapter, and these curses will warn you because it's going to be following whoever the children of Israel is. And it will warn you. It will be a warning to who you are and why you're being punished, because you were disobedient and you broke God's commandments, aka his rules. This is how we know who the children of Israel is, ladies and gentlemen, in case you didn't know. And when you read this book, I'm breaking it down from A to Z for you beginners. If you've been into this for 10 years or less, this is for you. According to Deuteronomy 28:46, it says that these curses will be a sign. A sign is an identification mark. How do you know what Starbucks is? How do you know where Dunkin' Donuts is? How do you know how to find Baskin Robbins? Because of what? The sign. You see the logo, just like the curses that were placed upon the children of Israel. The curses are the sign. The curses in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15 through 68. People read this and they don't even understand it. And they don't understand that these curses are going to follow your children. And it's going to keep on happening. And you'll find out until when. Question: what does it mean to serve your enemies? Serve, right? By implication, to serve. Look at this. Enslave, as we see right there. Keep in bondage. So when you serve your enemies, that's bondage. That's slavery, ladies and gentlemen. This means you will be enslaved in bondage. You will be forced to work, forced to serve, because it says serve your enemies. Let's look at the word enemy in this next passage that we're about to read. Oyev in Hebrew, hating, an adversary, enemy or foe. For you young brothers and sisters, today we call that your ops. One who's going against you. They're your op. Let's get it. It says, so this is describing someone that hates you. They're an adversary, an enemy who goes against you. They're hostile to you. Now, when it says you will serve your enemies, what does that really mean? It means you will go into bondage, be forced to work, to labor, or be enslaved to people who hate you, people who are against you. because they are not your family or your friends. They are your enemies. They are hostile nations. Now ask yourself, can you think of a black race of people who fit this, who went into slavery under the hands of their enemies, who were forced to serve and work for their enemies? Well, let's see what Deuteronomy 28 verse 48 says. It clearly says right here, therefore shall you serve your enemies. Serve your enemies. Slavery and bondage to people who hate you, which the Lord shall send against you. So guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It's not for us to be mad at them for what they did, because the Bible said the Lord sent them against us. The Lord did it. But look, it did say you're going to be going into slavery or work for your enemies or be slaves to your ops. You're going to serve them in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron, meaning an iron yoke, up on your neck until he has destroyed you. Let's break it down. Serve your enemies? Well, that's slavery, to be enslaved. It says God sent their enemies against the Israelites. The Israelites going into slavery under the control of their enemies was a punishment for breaking God's commandments. The Bible said the Lord sent the enemies of the Israelites against them. And this lets us know that this was divine judgment from the Lord himself for breaking his commandments. Y'all better read Deuteronomy chapter 8 verse 5 will tell you that as you matter of fact, that's your homework. The Lord did this to the children of Israel, and this is why no one can reverse this curse but the Lord himself. Then God said, you will be enslaved to your enemies in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness. What does that mean? It means you will be in need of food, water, and clothing, basic necessities of life. You will be totally dependent on your enemies to get it. God said you will serve your enemies in all things, not just food, water, and clothing, everything you want, everything you need. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is for a nation of people. Oh, I got my own business. I got this. We ain't talking about you. We talking about a race of people. So if these curses are a warning sign and identification mark, then who are the people today that must work for a nation, meaning a different race of people, who hate them in order to get everything they need? Remember, you got to find a nation, a race of people. And according to the Bible, the curses will follow them forever, still be following them today. Think about it. We as a nation don't own farms. We don't own water companies. We don't own the clothing industry. We don't. We rely on other nations for everything. Yes, some of us own businesses, but the Bible speaks about the entire nation of Israel, those who went into slavery with ships. If you are doing well individually, as a nation, we're at the bottom. And remember, we learned earlier that the curses would pursue us, follow us, or be close to us. So again, the question remains. The question remains. What nation of people fits this today? Now look at that passage again. There is something coming up next. All right. Remember, the passage said, therefore shall you serve your enemies, which the Lord shall send against you, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. He shall put a yoke of iron upon your neck until he had destroyed you. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Hear the verse again. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon your neck, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon your neck until he have destroyed you. This said the Israelites' enemies will put a yoke of iron, a yoke of iron upon their neck. I said slave because the verse clearly says they would serve, meaning be enslaved to their enemies, meaning those who hate them. Now pause and think. What nation of people can say as a race they had iron yokes placed upon their necks? Who wore yokes of iron as a symbol of oppression, slavery, and burden? Let me give you a visual. Deuteronomy 28, verse 48. Therefore shall you serve your enemies, which the Lord shall send against you, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he, meaning the enemy, who they're enslaved to, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon your neck, until he have destroyed thee. We're the only people as a nation who have gone through the horrors described in this verse. No other nation has experienced what we've experienced. Iron yokes up on our necks, forced servitude, generational curses, and total dependence on our enemies for food, water, and clothes, and everything else. This didn't happen to everyone. This happened to us. Remember, ain't nothing new under the sun, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. Giving y'all a visual. For any of y'all who don't know, you see these iron yokes and these chains around their necks? Right here. Look at right, it says in the sign, to be sold, slaves. Look at this iron yoke on this slave's necks. Huh? See that? Iron yokes on their necks. Then I said, just like what happened in ancient Egypt, our ancestors had iron yokes on their necks too. And guess what? There is nothing new under the sun. The same oppression, the same bondage, the same enemies, and the same suffering. It's a repeated cycle for the same people. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. And in my book, you will learn where this is. And you see right here in ancient Egypt, these black people, slaves, the children of Israel, had iron yokes on their necks. Nothing new under the sun, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing new under the sun. Deuteronomy 28:48, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing new under the sun. You could probably go to Google and type in Deuteronomy 28 verse 48 and click enter, click on images, and you will see things like this. It don't take much research. I guess the last page. Here we go. The yoke symbolized submission and control. It represented the slave master's power over the body and mind of the slave, and it ensured that you didn't escape. But this wasn't just physical bondage. It was psychological. That yoke was a heavy burden placed on our ancestors. And what's deep is this. Today as a nation, we don't need iron yokes on our necks anymore. The mission has already been accomplished. How? Through religion. Christianity, Islam, Mormonism, Judaism. All these religions were used to condition and control us. But God never gave us any religion. God never gave us any religion. He gave us commandments. Period. That iron yoke was a method used to dominate the slave, to trap them, to suppress them. And then notice what Deuteronomy 28 verse 48 says at the end. Until he has destroyed you. That was the goal. The oppression was designed to crush and destroy the Israelites completely, physically, mentally, spiritually. Now ask yourself, what race of people went through this type of oppression? What people were broken down like this generation after generation? Who was left destroyed after centuries of slavery and captivity? If you understand the Bible, then you understand why God did this to the Israelites. Because we turned our backs on him. We served other gods. We disobeyed. We fell into idolatry and we ignored the commandments. This is why we are where we are today. Last thing I'm going to read for y'all. And this ain't even the deep stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This book gets deep. Where do you see? I got pictures of the original 12 disciples, some images of Christ, or what he was depicted as back then. Moses, Abraham in here. You're going to see some stuff. Jonah in the Bible. Man, the list goes on. But anyway, it says, this is why the curses are still on us. This is why we need to come out of religion, return to the Bible and the commandments of the Most High. Let me tell you something else. You hear people say things like the Old Testament is for the Jews and the New Testament is for the Christians. That's a lie. And I can't wait to go into more detail on this. The entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation is for the Israelites. It was always about the nation of Israel. Always. As you go through this book, the series that follows you will understand that more and more. There's so much to unpack. I'm going to walk you through it step by step, because in this book, I'm walking you through it slowly. When I came into this knowledge, I had to do it all on my own with the help of the Most High. I wish I had written a book like this. I wish someone had written a book like this to walk me through it. To walk me through this truth slowly, like I'm doing for you. So if you know someone who needs to wake up, get them this book. Share the truth. Set our people free. Let's continue. Remember, God, this book here is just a starter kit, a starter pack, just to get you started. This is just level 1, entry level 1, apprentice level, beginner, novice. Remember, I told you I'm cramming thousands of years of history in this book here. When the Europeans came to get the slaves, they used ships. They traveled from the ends of the earth, meaning the other side of the world, to capture us. And when they arrived, the Israelites didn't even recognize their language. Now ask yourself, who on earth can say that this happened to them? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stop there. But ladies and gentlemen, as you see, this book here is definitely one to get, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely one to get. You will not be sorry if you get this book, ladies and gentlemen. You will not be sorry. I'll give you one right here. Let me zoom in on this. See this right here? Y'all, this is Daniel in the lion's den. Look at that right there. A fresco of Daniel in the lion's den. Tell you where it's at. Via Anapo catacomb. Daniel's face demonstrating the lion's den. Look how they drew him black. They tried to whitewash it too. Look at his little locks right there. Look at his dark skin. Look at the outline of his skin. Y'all see this black man right here with his afro? See that right here? Who's this black man with an afro? You see they tried to whitewash this? You will learn about that when they tried to make him white. They failed at it. Because you can see the outline of his skin, black. Look how dark his legs is. See that? And look at his afro. That's a black man. Look at that big nose and big lips. Huh? Who is that? Look at what it says. A painting of the Good Shepherd. It's in the Priscilla catacomb. A scene inspired by a similar hope for salvation and resurrection. Guys, you're looking at Yeshua HaMashiach, or Jesus the Christ. That's how the children of Israel painted him in the ancient world, ladies and gentlemen. And this here, this image is a lot more closer to what you see, that white image of Caesar Borgia, which I also talk about here, ladies and gentlemen. So, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you all enjoyed this. Look, we ain't even scratched the surface. We ain't scratched the surface. Here's the book right here. It exists. It exists. It exists. It exists. Get your copy. Hold up. We turn it back. Boom. Get your copy, ladies and gentlemen. Get your copy. Guess where you can go to get it at? Got a new website? Mytrueheritage.com. Mytrueheritage.com. That's where you can find it. And then you will learn why there's a pyramid on this side and why there are slave ships. And then you will learn why this book is called From Egypt to Egypt. There's a reason for that. Some of you may know, but most of you may not know. There's a reason why I named it From Egypt to Egypt. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is just a little bit. We ain't even scratched the surface. The book is pretty thick too. And you have 562 pages, ladies and gentlemen. The book is color printed, premium paper, which this book was expensive for me to print. I ain't gonna hold you. But I had to get top quality. I had to give you a top quality product. With the best paper that it offers, so that the book can last the longest. Gloss print. All right. So yeah, you see how the Lord is looking right here? That's how he's described and looking in the Bible, and you will see here as well. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, shalom.